We're back for an update on the Burnley Bungalow, and let's show you where it is. The bungalow fronts onto a housing estate, but at the rear, and the reason for the rear extension, it's open fields in the Forest of Burnley. So let's see how they've been going since we last visited. There's been a load of hardcore going down underneath where the main extension will be, and then that was concreted over, and you'll see that we have also upright steel beams to support the structure that will be built. The video that Steve's been sending me is filmed at different times of day and on different dates, but you can see the progress as you follow it through. Moving on to a very dramatic day when this truck turned up, and as you can see it has the horizontal steel beams and it's got to lift them over the bungalow and round the back. I was extremely nervous just watching this, but the men obviously have done this kind of thing before and they were confident. The driver remote controls this crane from a handheld device, which must be fairly complex, I reckon, and it reminded me of the controller I have when I'm flying a drone, in that I can fly it from one position until it goes out of sight, and then I tend to have to move round and see it from a different angle to get a different set of shots. Well, the technique here would appear to be that you stand at the front of the bungalow and you use the remote control to guide the beam across the roof, and then you have to move around the back when you have to guide it down and lower it into position. You'll notice as the video progresses that the driver with his remote control is quite often up on the roof doing that. What struck me when I was watching this was that the beam has a single pivot point from the crane and so has a tendency to swing round, and we don't know a lot about the wind speed on this day, but it would be quite easy for the whole thing to flip and be very difficult to control. The men are ready to catch it. You'll notice that they have ladders on each of the uprights, and it is their job to actually secure the beam in place. But first the crane driver has to get it the right way round and in the right direction. Once I'd got over the nervousness of watching this operation, and I noticed the driver lowers the beam down to the level of the two men below so that they can get it in the right position, and then they can go up the ladder and secure it in place. But it actually gets lowered down enough for them to maneuver it in the first place. Once you've got one hole aligned and the beam twisted at the right angle, you can then start putting the final bolts in. When you view this crane from the road, it really is an astounding sight, and it proved to me that I know very little about cranes because I have in my mind a mental picture of a type of crane that this definitely isn't. So there are obviously quite a lot of different types of cranes for different jobs, and I've not seen one like this before. Notice that this man doesn't even look at the controls, he's just working them with his fingers. He's looking up at exactly where the beam is and moving his fingers to keep that thing in place. There's another truck outside the bungalow, and it's more concrete. I've seen an awful lot of concrete being delivered to this project, so I asked Steve exactly how much they'd had, and he thought it was about 100 tons of the stuff so far. Environmentalists are not particularly happy about the amount of concrete we use in our building projects around the country, but until they find something eco-friendly that will do the job, the concrete has to stay. We'll have more from Burnley from the bungalow next month, but right now we're going back to the Wirral because I have quite small jobs compared with what we've been looking at, just doing little tinkering with my house in Wallasey. We won't be zooming in too closely on the back garden because it's a bit of a mess, but that will be dealt with another time. This is the room I was advertising last month. We now have a tenant for it, and he's very happy indeed with the easy chair and the view down to the river, particularly with the better weather coming on. Well, that's what we believe anyway. I'm not one of those landlords who just wants to move someone in as quickly as possible after the last one leaves. I always feel there's a little bit of work to be done on a room, and we will take it offline for a few weeks. This was the conventional panel heater that was in room 1, and we took these out. They were very cheap to buy, something like 20 quid or 30 quid, and now we're using more expensive heaters that are more efficient. With the panel heater removed and a smart switch put in line with the new heater, we're able to control and measure the consumption of the new infrared that you saw last month. The Klarstein Wonderwall, as it's called, can be controlled from an app. It can also have programmed scenes that bring it on at various times of the day or with various parameters. The tenant also gets a chance to change his settings, as there is a control panel behind the heater. As each room becomes empty, I've been putting one of these little temperature devices on the wall. It measures the temperature in the room and displays it, and also sends the readings back to me. Just a quick reminder of what the room looks like, and the advert that I made didn't show the actual wardrobes. It only showed the shower unit on the left and the toilet on the right. There are wardrobes, but most of the tenants who saw the advert guessed that the bit in the middle was in fact wardrobe space. So there's another quick look at the room to see how cosy it is. Everybody's always been delighted with this room with its bay window looking out, and the house is in a very nice area called the Magazines, which we're going to have a quick look round as we end this feature from the Wirral. There are two pubs at the bottom of the road, one called the Magazine and the other one's called the Pilot Boat. You're right by the river down here, and this is also where Vale Park is, and our regular viewers will have seen some of the things in Vale Park before. And now all that remains is for me to catch the little Wallasey circular bus onto my next destination.